Welcome to Study Session 2, Theories of Conflict. Introduction. Throughout history, efforts have been made to explain why people resort to violence. Those who studied conflict invariably concluded that conflict is rooted in different sources. In this study session, you will be exposed to different theories that explain the causes of conflict. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to discuss at least 5 theories used in the analysis of conflict. Concept of theories of conflict. It has been argued that no single theory reliably explains the causes of conflict, both at the national and international levels. Indeed, scholars have interpreted the term theory in different ways. The concept has been used so indiscriminately and imprecisely by social scientists in general that it is virtually in danger of losing any meaningful content. What is important for students to know is that a theory should always have scientific propositions which, when tested, are certified to be valid. In the same vein, theories' predictive value should be rated high. Concept of theory. A theory can be defined as a body of laws that have been empirically tested with proven conclusions which establish relationship between the structure, functions, and performance of the organization under study or event or process or phenomena. Doherty and Faxgrave also describe a theory as an intelligible system of inquiry which enables us to organize and offer guide for the achievement of a research objective. According to them, theory is a way of organizing our knowledge so that we can ask questions worth answering, guide our research toward valid answers, and integrate our knowledge with that of related fields. Similarly, a theory is an idea or belief about something arrived at through assumption, and in some cases a set of facts, propositions, or principles analyzed in their relation to one another and used especially in science to explain phenomena. Simply put, a theory is a set of propositions and concepts that seek to explain phenomena by specifying the relationship among concepts. The theory's ultimate purpose is to predict phenomena. Thus, good theory generates a group of testable hypotheses, specific statements positing a particular relationship between two or more variables. Essentially, the following descriptions of theory capture some of their diverse purposes. Theories explain the laws of international politics or recurrent patterns of national behavior. Theories attempt either to explain and predict behavior or to understand the world inside and predict behavior or to understand the world inside and the heads of actors. Theories are traditions of speculation about relations between states and which focus on the struggle for power, the nature of international society, and the possibility of a world community. Theories use empirical data to test hypotheses about the world, such as the absence of war between liberal democratic states. Theories analyze and try to clarify the use of concepts such as the balance of power. Theories criticize forms of domination and perspectives which make the socially constructed and changeable seem natural and unalterable. Theories reflect on how the world ought to be organized and analyze ways in which various conceptions of human rights or global social justice are constructed and defended. Normative or international ethics. Theories reflect on the process of theorizing itself. They analyze epistemological claims about how human beings know the world and ontological claims. Economic theories. Economic theories can be understood in a context for control over economic assets, resources, or systems. Economic theories highlight resources and to that extent are close to the radical structural theory of conflict. This theory is represented by the Marxist dialectical school with exponents in Marx and Engels. Theories like Marxism in its thesis on historical materialism, present conflicts as mostly tied to economic structures and social institutions. The main argument of the structuralist conflict theory is that conflict is built into the particular way societies are structured and organized. It is this struggle among social classes and groups that makes the society to be divided in terms of power and resource allocation. In sum, the exploitation of the subject class, proletariat, under capitalism creates conflict. Thus, capitalist societies are accused of being exploitative, and such exploitation is a cause of conflict. Realist theories. What is political realism? It is a school of thought that explains international relations in the terms of power. The exercise of power by states toward each other is sometimes called realpolitik or just power politics. Central to realist theory are several assumptions that shape the paradigm, which formed the basis for much of the theoretical development of the study of the World War II and much of the international political events up to the early 1980s. The assumptions are that the international system is based on nation-states as the key actors, that international politics is essentially conflictual, a struggle for power in an anarchic setting in which nation-states inevitably rely on their own capabilities to ensure their survival, that states are unitary actors, and that domestic politics can be separated from foreign policy, that states are rational actors characterized by a decision-making process leading to choices based on maximizing the national interest, that power is the most important concept in explaining as well as predicting state behavior. However, realist theory or realism highlights the root of conflict to a flaw in human nature which is seen to be selfish and engaging in the pursuit of personalized self-interest defined by power. In the same vein, realism believes that competitive processes between actors, primarily defined as states, is the natural expression of conflict by parties engaged in the pursuit of scarce and competitive interests. Descriptive realism. It sees the world as an arena of conflict. Explanatory realism. It seeks to show that there are genetic defects which push humankind into behaving negatively, and that wars become inevitable because there is no mechanism to stop them from occurring. And prescriptive realism, which builds on the arguments of descriptive and explanatory realism to show that decision makers, individuals, groups, or nations have a moral justification to defend their basic interests and ensure self-preservation using any means necessary. One of the leading exponents of realism, Hans Morgenthau, argued that realism is a departure from idealism, a theory he accuses of believing in a moral and rational political order based on universally valid abstract principles. For Morgenthau, the imperfection of the world, namely conflict, has its roots in forces that are inherent in human nature. To sum up, actors, according to the realist, should prepare to deal with the outcome and consequences of conflict, since it is inevitable rather than wish there were none. This theory greatly justified the militarization of international relations, the arms race, and helped the emergence of other theories like deterrence theory, balance of terror, and so on. Psychoanalytical theories. It has been argued that conflict has inside and outside dimension. It arises out of the internal dimensions of individuals acting singly or in groups, and also out of external conditions and social structures. At all levels of analysis, larger organized aggregates of human beings affect smaller aggregates and individuals, and vice versa. Individuals and groups are in constant interactions. The question to ask ourselves is, which is more important, the larger or the smaller? However, scientists from many disciplines interested in conflict will probably never be able to agree on any answer to this fundamentally important question. The only available solution to this dilemma is to regard social situations and individual inner processes as an organic whole. In the same vein, Edward O. Wilson, 1975, postulates that in place of general aggressive instinct, there are particular patterns of aggressive behavior that have been adapted by various species to ensure their survival in the Darwinian evolutionary scheme. The major theme of psychoanalytical theory, behavioral theory, is that all living organisms have certain fundamental species-specific biological requirements. These needs include a reasonably pure atmosphere, numerous nutritional requirements, fresh water, shelter and clothing, healthcare, and so on. For long period, the greater part of all economic activity is devoted to meeting basic biological needs. Thus, biological needs quickly resulted into higher psychological needs that are often even more difficult to satisfy. These psychological needs include sense of belonging, self-esteem and prestige, self-actualization, and so on. To be sure, much of the political and economic competition and conflict among human societies is traceable to the fact that the demand for things required to satisfy biological and psychological needs always exceed the supply. Similarly, behavioral theories have given rise to what may be referred to as the innate theory of conflict, which contends that conflict is innate in all social interactions and among all animals, including human beings. This theory is broad in coverage, incorporating sociology, biology, physiology, ethology, and psychology in explaining human behavior. Frustration-aggression theory. They define frustration as an interference with the occurrence of an instigated goal response at its proper time. It is instructive to note that theorists who rely on this explanation use the psychological theories of motivation and behavior, as well as frustration and aggression. In an attempt to explain aggression, scholars point to the difference between what people feel they want or deserve to what they actually get. This is the central argument posited by Ted Robert Gore in his relative deprivation thesis. As Gore rightly observed, the greater the discrepancy, however marginal, between what is sought and what seems attainable, the greater will be the chances that anger and violence will result. Central to the explanation of frustration-aggression theory is that in a situation where the legitimate desires of an individual is defined either directly or by the indirect consequences of the way the society is structured. Linkage theory. Rezanow, 1969, has introduced and argued in favor of the linkage theory of conflict. He relates the theory as any recurrent sequence of behavior that originates in one system and attracts a reaction. The linkage theory attempts to explain instability or stability in a country and can be explained not only from the socio-economic and political conditions in the home country, but with occurrences at the international level. As technology shrinks the world into a global village and heightens the interdependence of nations, the linkage phenomenon is too obvious and influential to be ignored. Quite obviously, the import of the linkage theory is its guide in the design of foreign policy. Put simply, a country's foreign policy or approach to it could be the root cause of a major conflict. For instance, the abrogation of the Anglo-Nigerian Defense Pact of 1962 was largely due to the degree of protest registered by people of Nigeria against the defense arrangement. This implies that Nigeria's decision to go into the agreement only to abruptly abrogate it cannot be analyzed without using this approach. Summary of study session. In this study session, we examine the major reasons why people are involved in conflict using different theories. The theories of conflict are: 1. economic theories of conflict, which relied on scarce resources and structure of society. 2. Realist theories, which emphasized the significance of power. 3. Psychoanalytical theories, which draws on behavioral patterns of species. 4. Systemic theories, which provide a socio-structural explanation for the emergence of conflict. 5. Frustration-aggression theory, which points to a fact that a feeling of disappointment can lead to conflict. And 6. Linkage theory, which explains that events in one nation can have consequences in another that can trigger conflict between the nations involved. We have come to the end of study session 2. Thank you.